Now we'll hear that.
But who cares? Paper can make noise. No one's going to be like, how dare you? I'm going to unsubscribe. I heard paper.
Oh, well, someone just did. They just unsubscribed. They heard the paper. They said, I'm not gonna sit here. Yeah. So
Are we recording right now?
Yeah.
Oh.
Here's the dealie. Yeah, we're in the Jennifer. We're already like 10 minutes into the show. You didn't realize it. We have feedback from the hospital episode. We had well over 1,000 views on that, which was really surprising. And the comments, a lot of comments, and we're going to share some of them that we obviously can't share all of them. But some are good discussion points talking about things like, the spiritual impact of our experience, the emotional impact of the experience, talking about some listeners who've had similar health scares, and really did not expect, but it's very appropriate for the month of November for a continued discussion of the reality of Memento Mori and remembering, that we're going to die and how we should be living our lives as a result of that. So a lot of that we'll talk about. Before we get into that, I don't know if you saw the notes I put at the top of this. The podcast name, very unceremoniously, has officially been changed. And so for everyone who's listening on their devices, it now says Rosary Army Catholic Podcast. We reverted back to the original name. As we talked about, we're going to be doing this, but I feel like we have to say it again because for people who didn't hear the episode where we said we're going to do that, we've changed the name. We're not going to explain why again because we spent a lot of time talking about that. So this is officially no longer Adventures in Imperfect Living. How do you feel about that?
It feels a little weird because I'm so comfortable with that name, but it doesn't change like who we are or how we live, or it's not like we're not going to have any adventures anymore. We still are, and they are going to be age-appropriate adventures, like what happened to me last week.
Should we have called it that? Age-appropriate Adventures in Imperfect Living?
Maybe.
Just continue to make it a really long title no one can remember. And a big reason why is I think Rosary Army people, we're trying to refocus on the mission of Rosary Army. That's a big part of us going into the giving campaign this year, which will launch in a couple of weeks. Don't forget that. Make them, pray them, give them away. Promoting the Rosary. And you and I have talked about this a lot. If we promote Rosary Army, it's not self-promotion. Promoting Rosary Army promotes the Rosary. Promoting Rosary Army promotes meditating on the life of Jesus Christ using the Rosary. But it leads in one, I've been having a lot of conversations lately with people who have supported Rosary Army in various ways over the last few years. And I sent out an email to like 400 something people. And I opened up all these slots on my calendar and just said, I'd like to have a conversation with you and say, how has Rosary Army impacted your life? How are you seeing Rosary Army impacting the lives of others? Asking questions like that. And it's very helpful to me. But one of the things that, I've heard a couple of times from people is they look at, the podcast and the other media stuff as the educational arm of Rosary Army. And that made me feel really good because that's ultimately what I want out of this. And when I talk about, I don't want to necessarily make it be about us, but I really want people to feel like they're growing in their faith. And a lot of people have said, they started praying the Rosary with us and because of us, but their faith has gone in so many different ways. And talked to a couple of people in diaconate formation in the last few weeks. Talked to people who have gotten more involved in their parishes, that are leading rosaries at their parishes, and those kinds of things. And so that's very edifying to me. I feel like this is the right decision, and I know not everyone likes name changes. They don't like it when we make these changes, and we've done it before, and I'm aware of it. And people have made fun of us and poked fun of us, Mac Barron, for doing that. But listen, I mean, we've been on these journeys over the last 20 years, and to change the name, Bob Newhart, I'll use Bob Newhart. He had 3 shows called with various forms of Newhart. He was at the heart of it, but it was a different show, different seasons and that kind of thing. But all those shows, you could watch them all in a row, and it's different characters and different scenarios, but it's still, the heart was there.
The only names we really can't change is Greg and Jennifer Willits, and I
Well,
don't plan on changing those
We
names.
could. I would like to be henceforth called Lord Baldybald.
No.
And
You could be Greg with 2 G's.
Oh, I am Greg with 2 G's. There's one on each end.
Oh, 3 G's. Sorry. You're the only one who points it out like that. Like Lily has 3 L's. No, wait, 2 L's.
2 L's.
There's 2 L's in Lily.
Yeah.
And people want to
one
put
at the beginning
3.
and one in the middle.
Right, and people just assume that the L's are going to be like LLY. I'm like, no, but I understand why you say that.
I'm not one of those weird Gregs that goes by Greg.
Exactly.
So then
They're
the question. Here's the question. This is a legitimate question. I know it's a silly question, but how should we handle the numbering of the show? Okay, so here's what I mean by this.
Oh no, does that? I mean, why does it matter?
It for a few different reasons. Hold on, I wrote it.
Try that card over there, the one that's down.
Okay, so it matters because when I'm putting shows out, there's always Apple wants you to number them. It's oftentimes in the title. I started slowly switching. Normally I post on websites or whatever ADV number, and then the name of the show, right? And so now it's RA number, whatever. But then that's how I numbered the RA shows originally, right? So there's RA1, and then we did 244 official episodes of Rosary Army. Mm-hmm. The radio show, we put out 144 episodes of kind of the consolidated content. So there's 144 of those. Those were actually in this current feed originally, okay? And then currently, so this episode that we're recording is 530 of this current iteration. So I remember when Father Roderick, he went from Catholic Insider to Daily Breakfast to The Break, and he changed his name 3 times, and he consolidated his numbers, and he just kind of added them up, and from this point going forward, that was the number.
Yeah, it's whatever's easiest for you. I don't think a listener cares.
Well, they
don't remember things by number.
No, but I'm thinking I'm thinking about 5 years from now, if we continue doing this, what ultimately of all of the various iterations of our show, what number are we on? And so if we were to start with this current one, this episode would be episode 918.
Say it again. What number?
This one that we're recording right now would be episode 918. 918.
Okay. Do that.
Okay.
Honestly,
you don't have an opinion.
No, it just and I've never, but that might be my personal way of seeing numbering conventions for any podcast. It's like a piece of administration that all I care about is it new and who did it. That's, as a listener, those are the 2 most important things. Like the title, okay, that's cute and funny. And I don't spend much time on titles. I just want to hear the latest show.
Well, look at it this way.
So the number means almost nothing.
But wouldn't it be kind of cool to know that we're within, we're within 100 episodes of our 1,000th podcast?
And I think that number, if it reflects a truth of the number of things we've done, then just start there. I mean, it just is easy.
It doesn't reflect the true number of everything we've done. Like I didn't include catechism class in there because catechism class was a different type of show.
Yeah, and that feels right to exclude.
That's what I mean.
I'm all in favor. Just start with 918.
Yeah, and we've done more than mental, and we did,
And this is the official explanation for what that number means. Boom, done, got it. What's next on your list?
We got an email from a longtime listener, Pat. She said, my gosh, Greg, the episode Jennifer had, not the podcast episode. This was hospital episode number 1.
That episode.
The health episode Jennifer had, and your entire experience during those horrific hours brought me to tears. I'm so very grateful for God's mercy and the phenomenal outcome, but I understand what a lesson you both learned. As you said, we have to detach ourselves and know that God is in charge of our individual lives. My husband is 7 years older than I am, and a day doesn't go by that I don't think about our mortality. You look back and just can't fathom where all those years went. I think no one can prepare adequately ahead of time, and when the time comes, we can only hope our faith in God will carry us through. Had a different comment from Lisa, and she she, and I think it was a good point where she kind of countered. She said, it's not so much about detachment, and I didn't print that one out. It's not so much about detachment as it is, if these things happen, depending upon God to give us the grace to be able to handle them. And I didn't say that, but I was also literally 12 hours away from the incident. So it was very much, it was making me realize just how dependent I was. And grace definitely, plays a role in all of what's been happening. And grace always plays a role in when difficult things happen. I will say the detachment thing has continued, to Pat's point, has continued to be at the forefront. We talked a couple episodes back about Memento Mori. And in that, talking about, the knowledge that we will die and needing to separate and thinking about that. But then I made the point after the hospital scare that what I said was I need to be more detached from and be prepared to give up you or the kids or whatever, my possessions. They're not necessarily mine; they're gifts from God. But that's one of those very much easier said than done things. And I was surprised, like around Tuesday or Wednesday, I started to feel better after the hospital scare. But then Friday, you were at the school and I was mowing the grass and it was terrible for me. Because
mowing the grass was terrible for you?
Because of what my brain does.
Okay.
I started to realize, had you died on that Sunday, like I thought you did for a few minutes, there's a good chance like that day, that Friday, like the day before, the Thursday, the timing of it, 3 days after the day, there's a good chance that like the funeral mass could have been the day before or even that day. And would I be out there mowing the grass? Because things move on. Things, grass.
Life doesn't stop.
Grass, and I know it's November and it's weird for some people to think I'm still mowing the grass. It was the last lawn mowing of the, hopefully, of the season. Yeah. But I was just very cognizant of like, you just continue going on. And then last night you went to your book club and my brain was messing with me last night. I was very much aware of like, man, I mean, where my brain was is that you wouldn't be coming home. I had to keep telling myself, I'm alone right now, but you're not dead. But my brain kept thinking, But
if I was dead, this would be a different sense of aloneness.
It was even worse than if you were dead. It was. I kept thinking of the look on your face last night, and I haven't thought of it in a few days.
The look on my face.
The look on your face when you
I had when you thought I was dead.
When I thought you were dead, and I just kept seeing that, and I'm just
the
going
unconscious look.
And I'm just trying to, I was trying to imagine it's like it would just be me and Lily in this house, and how would I help our daughter?
Yeah, that's what I think about too.
Because she's so connected to you, and then I have to go. But you didn't die,
right? But here's what's true.
Why am I thinking about it?
And we do have sometimes overactive imaginations. I mean, I've done it where I would allow myself to spiral into the death of a loved one.
Yeah.
And then I think about, now, how do you feel? Think about the death. How do you feel? I was like, why am I doing this to myself? Why? And then like tears are streaming down my cheeks. And that's not the timeline I'm actually in. I'm in this timeline. This is my reality. Why am I doing this? But before we get too far, I would like to say just a quick update on how I feel. I feel like I'm completely back to my former pre-event self, the pre-medical scare. And we've been using medical scare, but really in hindsight, it was like a medical shock. It was just an enormous event of syncope that it was not this gentle fainting thing. It was like, boom, you were going down, all systems down. And it came out of nowhere. So it was a shock to our systems. It was a shock to our emotions. It was a shock to our senses, both of us. But it took about a week to kind of come back out of it. And it was the slow, like coming back into normal motion, normal speed. I'm back on the walking trail with you, and I felt great. Everything just feels great.
Except for this morning.
Well, what do you mean? I felt great this morning, even though it was just cold outside. It was just cold and windy. That's it.
Today was maybe the second day I did not enjoy walking with you. The first time was when it was blazing hot because we didn't go walking until like noon.
Yeah.
And then today it was just bitter cold because of a biting wind.
We have an interesting image on our... For those who are watching this podcast.
There, I fixed it just by waving my hand and looking at it.
There you go. Thank you for fixing that video. But honestly, How
long was it up on the screen?
Literally just a couple of seconds. I really feel pretty great. I feel my energy feels completely restored. This was just a weird anomaly.
And you've gone to the chiropractor multiple times.
Yeah, and he is very pleased with what he sees. He did
Your whiplash.
Yeah, and I guess our audience does not know this, but if you want this little bit of detail, you know how your vertebra has names like C1 through C6 before it goes to the T zone and then the L zone, the lumbar zone. So your spine has those three sections, and C1 is the first vertebra right underneath the base of the skull. Upon looking at the x-ray, he confirmed that was in a problematic position and we needed to immediately fix that.
But he said something about that. He didn't see anything because the whole incident was with your neck.
Right.
That's where it started. Mm-hmm. And something happened, your neck was hurting, and then you ended up passing out, and then it had the whole event and everything else.
Right.
He could not see why that happened.
Right. So it did make sense to him, but I can't worry about that. Like in some of the comments on our YouTube channel that were posted in response to the video, you know, where you thought I died, some, like maybe a couple people were like, oh, how frustrating, you know, to not get an answer for this problem. Like, you know, but I'm okay with that. I realize how often that happens. And it actually reminded me a lot of my mom and how often we try to pursue, you know, all these medical appointments, just trying to understand, well, why is mom experiencing this problem or that problem? And said, well, no, pathology looks great. I don't know. I can't find a reason for your explanation. I'm like,
but the doctor said, and a few people said, okay, was that enough of the update? I mean,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I think some of what you're going to say comes out in some of these emails.
Okay.
Heather left a comment as well. Why don't you read that one?
Okay. This is from Heather.
It's a little bit longer, so you can skip some of this, I think.
Well,
we'll see.
We'll see. This is from Heather writing into us. My heart goes out to you both. There will be layers of meaning that will come in time. Last year, my husband had a stroke while I was away visiting my family. We didn't know it was a stroke until later because the symptoms were not the classic ones you hear about. He was very unwell for many months and lost several key competencies of taking care of himself. He is mostly recovered now, but things are never going to be exactly as they were before. While caring for him, I had an experience that can only be described as an illumination of conscience. I saw right down into the heart of my own selfishness. It ripped my soul apart. Since this all happened, I have found myself fearful of what could happen again and feeling much more urgent about the need to surrender everything to God. All of this has brought us closer as we better appreciate the love and connection between us. Dealing with illness has changed our lives, which is frustrating, but also a reminder that ultimately we are not in control. Appreciating the small and simple things that we can continue to share with each other and take pleasure in together imbues everything with meaning. My heart and prayers are with you. Don't allow the fearful thoughts to overwhelm you and trust that whatever happens, God's love and mercy will prevail. Sending lots of love and healing hugs. Thank you for that. And that actually reminds me of a moment that I had with the chiropractor as he was listening to me give him all the descriptions of the pain. And I said to him, it's like, well, because if we don't know where this came from or why I had it in the first place, what's to say it won't happen again? Because now it happened out of the blue, so therefore the precedence is there. It will happen out of the blue in the future. And the first thing that our doctor said was, but we're not going to live in fear. I'm like, yeah, okay.
I don't know
if you were there for that.
Yeah,
do you remember that?
No, I don't remember.
It's
him
like, yeah, but
that.
we're not going to live in fear. It's like, yeah,
okay, but it's easier said than done. I mean, but seriously, and I hear him, and he's right. I mean, Scripture has over 300 references to overcoming fear, not being afraid, right? First thing John Paul II said when he came out on the dais, the balcony after he was elected Pope, be not afraid, right? The subtitle of my book, New Evangelization in You, be not afraid. Very aware of that, right? Very aware. We know these truths. It's accepting them. And, there's the knowledge of it, and then there's the implementation of the truth, are two different things. And for me, there's still this lingering fear it could happen again because there's also unresolved things. Like the doctor did say and made a recommendation to follow up with a cardiologist. Because we don't have insurance for that kind of care, we're not really moving in that direction. That scares me, right? Because I don't like unknowns. I don't like lingering question marks. We've talked about investing in, even if temporary, buying an Apple Watch and then selling it when you're done with it or whatever. I have an Apple Watch that a listener sent to me. Thank you very much, and I use it all the time to track my steps and my activity and that kind of thing. And that's all it's really good for. I've turned off all the notifications that I get, and I don't, all that kind of stuff. I don't like that. But is that something, I don't begrudge you whatsoever about your dislike of wearing an electric device. You like your watch. I mean, I think that makes a lot of sense. But we just had a tremendous medical scare. And your heart rate did drop into the high 40s, low 50s. Are we being negligent? That's like, it's the idea of where are you negligent and where are you being naively trustful, and how do you hit in the middle?
Yeah,
right.
That's fair.
I mean, it's like it's the whole story, and someone brought this up to it's the old story of the guy who, a flood came through town. He's on top of his house, and first, someone came in a boat, and then someone came in a helicopter, and and he kept saying, no, God's going to take care of me, and then he ends up drowning and dying, and then he goes to heaven and goes, well, God, why didn't you take care of me? I sent you a boat and a helicopter. What do you want? Well, you were told to check your heart rate, You were told go see a cardiologist, and if we're negligent in that respect, am I going to pay the cost for it someday, right? And losing my wife, and so I worry about that still. But at the same time, I don't know. Okay, you are fine right now, so I don't want to live in fear. But it was really freaking weird. So like what, so I'm not saying go to the cardiologist. I honestly don't know the answer to it. And that's what I don't like. I don't like the unknowns. I don't like unanswered questions. I don't like, unresolved threads, and maybe that's the writer in me. It's like, I'm not going to start a storyline and then just go, you know what? People are just going to have to deal with the fact I'm not going to answer that. And now I'm going to go over here in my story. And it's just like, well, what the heck happened to that guy that should, right. It doesn't matter. Right? You should just be not afraid. He's fine. I don't know. All right. Comments on YouTube that I thought were pretty good. You guys had me weeping. This is E. Green. I think Elizabeth wrote this one. You guys had me weeping. What a scary situation. You guys are my audio friends. You've been in my ears and in my computer or phone for nearly 10 years. It feels like you're an aunt and uncle. Definitely a woman wrote this. It feels like you're an aunt and uncle I don't get to see in person, but hear updates from all the time. I'm just trying to say how much you guys mean to me, and I thank Jennifer's guardian angel and Mother Mary and Jesus that Jennifer was brought back and is okay. I will dedicate my next rosary for your family. Thank you for that. Thank you. Lots of people praying.
Yeah.
I think the thing, okay, we didn't talk about this. So when we recorded that last show, and we had just gotten back from the hospital, we hadn't told any of our children yet.
Oh boy.
And that was
this is actually an enlightening conversation that I would like to linger on.
So I guess the reason why I bring this, I mean, she said that you're like an aunt and uncle. I don't see in person. I hear updates from all the time. Not everyone got updates. I only told
one person, two people,
Mac and Catherine.
Right.
I called them. They're close by. Catherine's a nurse. They're the only ones who knew all day.
And so And what's interesting about that is you don't really know who will be first on your list to notify until you're in the crisis and you just do it. Like, you don't really know what's going to happen until it happens. And who's available to make the call? Like, had the tables been turned? I don't really know what my first call would have been, but it probably would have been someone who probably would have been back in Catherine because they are best friends. They live right close to us and they have a medical background. And so you quickly can distill that this makes sense to do. But what you do after that was kind of unknown. And this is a very contentious conversation because it brought out an interesting amount of reactions from people close to us. And I don't really want to linger on all that, but it gives you an opportunity to sort of revisit what protocol should we have in place. We realized we didn't have a protocol in place.
And this is one of the learning lessons that I think is good for all the listeners. You should have a will in place. This actually brought up the discussion that neither one of us is 100% certain if we have a do not resuscitate order in place.
Yeah, but that, we just got to look at our wills.
Well, but
make sure it's all the way we want it to be.
But this is right. This is another one of those balancing acts between prudence and just, hey, everything's going to work out great. Well, if you're not here to take care of it, it did work out great for you, but for the people that you left behind, it's good to have a plan in place. How thankful are you that your dad had files with all of his stuff in place so that you at least had a starting point to move from, right? And you had something to work with to help process all those things. So this got me thinking, it's like, I really, for life insurance or for medical bills, I'm like, I assume you have printed out pages. I know you have a big filing cabinet downstairs. I'm assuming in good faith, excuse me, that you have paperwork in there that would help me should you no longer be around.
Not perfectly. It's not a roadmap.
Like, I don't even know who our health insurance is. I don't know the actual business name. I don't know the website. I think I could log in. I could get access, but I don't know what website I would need to go to.
Right, and these are very real concerns. And not only that, we live in an age where we are creating logins and passwords all the time and not necessarily keeping it in a central location. I mean, most things are. We do use a service, like a password vault that I try to regularly update all the time. And if you have access to that, that's going to really help you log in to all the financial websites, these important services like, insurance portals and all these things that we do. That's part of our living in a digital age, But is it like a nice, neat step one, go here, step two, go here?
No, but my realization was...
I should do something
No, my realization was I think that we don't do this due diligence because we overcomplicate it by thinking that we have to sit down and write step one, do this, step two, do this. Give me a list of websites with just your username.
Yeah.
Is it your email or is it your username?
Yeah.
And
this is like a top 10. I bet I could come up top 10 most important things. Here's the logins for that you can get into. 9
times out of 10, I'm going to know what your password protocol is for these things.
Yeah.
And even if I didn't, if I at least could go in and I have access to your computer, then I could just reset password. I can get in.
Yeah.
Right? I'm confident with that. So I know that there's stuff for Rosary Army, a lot of the accounts that we use for various things. I probably should outline those, even though you pay the bills.
Yeah.
So you'd be able to figure that out. But it's so that's one thing, right? That's sort of like the business side of things. But the other, the notification, we realized we need to have a notification tree because in the middle of this, you and I, while we were talking to each other, and we even were able to record the podcast, I know in my head, I'm thinking, this podcast is the notification that everyone will get to find out what happened. And in my brain, because this is just the way I think, I'm like, that's enough, right? It's like we're going to put it out there and people are going to see it, and everyone who needs to see it will have access to see it. And I rarely post on Facebook or Twitter anymore, but I even posted a link in those places so that extended family and friends or whoever, they're in the know. Because I can't get on the phone and be making these calls over and over again. We have 5 children. So already out of the gate, I'm going to have 5 conversations and explain 5 times all the things that we already explained in the podcast. And then who else am I supposed to call after that? Right. And I'm going to, and knowing me, I don't want to be a jerk, and I'm worried that I'm just going to go, listen, so Jennifer ended up in the hospital. She's fine. Okay. But now, so what? I don't want to turn into a jerk after that. Right. Because I'm exhausted. I've been up since whatever time. And not that that's an excuse or whatever, but it made us realize, because we did say, hey, can you make a call and da-da-da, and then that didn't happen. Can you call everyone? And it just, the people who we thought were being notified weren't, for whatever reason.
Yeah, the protocol that we have now is for medical crisis where 911 is notified, that high level of life or death, or even getting near that, life or death adjacent. We call Catherine, we try to get a hold of her, and then she will reach out to Sam, our oldest son. And because Sam said, I want to be in charge of being the point person to notify family, I'll happily do that. And because he offered to do that for us, I'm like, okay, then you got it. No problem. So Catherine will reach out to you, and because then she can be calm and update Sam and even offer a little medical, like, so this is what this means. So she can actually provide a valuable service to us where she is not going to be all like out of her head emotionally. She's like, all right, your parents are here right now. This is all we know. You can pray. Would you please let your siblings now know? And then that'll be the flow of communication. So, and she said, yep, I can do that. And so I just had to make sure she just has Sam's contact and we're good. And,
does she have Sam's contact now?
Yeah, I believe so, but I'll double check. She didn't have her phone with her at the time, so I could go, well, pull up on your phone, and just look at it. But yeah, I'll probably need to make a note to myself to make sure but just think about, it gave us an opportunity to look at a problem that we didn't have a plan in place. And now it's nice knowing that we have a plan in place. It's like, okay, good. So this was a nice little wake-up call to get all that sorted out. And the other thing that it was a complicator is administration duties and grief don't play well together. And sometimes you've been in that road. Maybe you've already experienced the loss of a loved one and you realized the chore now that faces you is like, oh, people don't know what happened. You're the only one who knows what happened. And now you have that it's a weighty task to tell people because it comes at a cost of your energy. It is not like I'm completely detached. I can tell you all these things. No, it's going to force you to relive the trauma at a point, and it comes at a cost to your personal resources, which is exactly why some families do not share events. They actually is like, because they realize I can't even do this. I don't have what it takes to share this story, to be present to the person I'm talking to, and then allow the questions that are likely to come back. And that you already know you don't even have answers for. So that's partly what's happening in your mind is, I can't have this conversation. It's not that I don't want you to be informed. I don't have what I need to have this conversation. I love you. Please respect that. So there's that up against, you don't necessarily know the ways people want to be contacted. We live in a world where we are repeatedly being asked the question, how do you prefer to be contacted? Do you want a text? Do you want an email?
Okay,
do you want a phone call?
But so what do you do about that?
And that was the thing. Was people say, "Oh, well, you should have emailed me."
Well, let's
here,
talk. But let's talk.
Or you should have called me.
But let's talk.
I was like,
well, hold on. So if we're going to talk about, right, we're trying to create solutions, both for ourselves and those, for others, who are listening or watching. What do you recommend? Do you write it down? Do you have conversations? Who do you think needs to know?
Right.
At the top list, who needs to be personally contacted, and then how do you deal with the hurt feelings for people who aren't contacted.
And so now what I would say is that we decide, we have like a family list that gets called, and then a message is left and they are notified. Whether they answer the phone or not, we cannot control that.
But that's not what I'm saying. How do you determine who's on the list? So it's like we have Catherine.
Yeah.
Hold on. Catherine is going to contact Sam. Sam is going to contact his siblings. And who else? Is someone else responsible for contacting the other people?
Do you want me to answer that question live on the show right now? Or are you saying this is the question that we just answer in our
needed to say the question out loud before you actually answered it because I didn't actually.
And so right now, because my parents are already deceased, they are not in that tree. Otherwise, I would have said my immediate family would be next on the notification list. So for me, that only means my brother, because that's all I've got left. Because he is.
I guess I didn't ask. I still didn't ask my question. I didn't ask it right because you're answering a different question. I'm trying to figure out like a protocol that anyone can fit. How does somebody who experiences a death in the family or a trip to the hospital, how do you create in advance a notification tree to take that stress off that we're talking about? Is there?
Yeah, that's easy.
I'm not saying specific people. So I'm just saying.
I would say
you create a point person. Mm-hmm. The point person tells them, but if that point person is only going to call one other person,
no, he would just call all family.
That's what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, just all family living.
So in our case, does Sam know to call people other than his siblings?
If we tell him to, he will.
Okay, so then that's where I'm going.
Yeah.
We need to provide the list.
Sure.
To that person. So if someone else is listening right now, what's their notification tree? What's their order of operations? That's where I've been trying to go with this, because we realize we do not have that in place. Right. It also brings about, is there a protocol? Because I still think even if you put something in place like that, some people are still going to get upset that they didn't get a call from the top level, right? Like I didn't call if something were to happen to you. Or you didn't call and you're in recovery, right? But you're able to talk, but why didn't you call? That kind of thing.
Right.
I don't know how to deal with those kind of scenarios, because I think that, like I've gotten death notifications via text before, and that feels very impersonal, but I'm starting to question my own reaction when that happened in the past. And
what's wrong with your reaction?
Like I was like, I wish I'd gotten a call. I wish I didn't find out via text.
Oh, really? You actually felt that before?
I'm trying to think of the exact example, but I know that this has been something
So it's a fair reaction. It just happens, and but it actually is an opportunity to look. Is that a good reaction?
So in my case, I thought I went above and beyond in producing a show that provided every single freaking answer you could possibly want at what we knew at that moment.
Yeah.
And I couldn't do any more than what I did.
Right.
Other than call people up. And I'm like, there was just a skit on Saturday Night Live recently that it was calling dad. And there was a skit, and Bill Burr was the host, and the one SNL person was calling, and Bill Burr's the dad, and Bill Burr answers the phone. He's like, "Hey, buddy. Well, good to hear from you. Well, I'll let you go." It's like as soon as he answered the phone, he was hanging up the phone.
He was ready to hang up.
And I don't like talking on the phone.
Okay, but to kind of put you at ease a little bit, like one of the things that Catherine offered as a possible thing to say when you can't handle talking, this is probably what she would say to Sam.
Our Sam.
Yes, our Sam. If she had to make a call like this again, she's like, listen, your mom is in the hospital. Just as for the sake of an example, your mom's in the hospital. Your dad is with her. They don't know anything. Your father's not able to talk right now because he's completely focused on your mother's care. So all they want is prayers. They do not want phone calls right now because they can't handle the phone call. But just pray. This is all we This is all we're asking of you. There's nothing for you to do. Just pray. Here's the notification. So you can almost say what the needs are right out of the gate. And you because that's kind of a natural question they're going to have is, I want to call them and speak. It's like, they can't handle phone calls right now. Oh, okay. Well, then I didn't know that, but I'm going to honor that because out of a desire to help, you just want to do the right thing.
Yeah.
And so now I understand. Like I know I have a friend of mine who is suffering and going through a terrible disease. And
Are you talking hypothetical or is this?
No, a real person.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
I'm like, well, I want to talk to them. I want to minister to them. I want to love them. I want to, and then, but I have no access to this person. And I was like, oh, well, why won't they let me love them?
Yeah.
Making it about me now, aren't I? Like,
Yeah.
And suddenly I'm thinking about this very differently. Like, listen, this is all they can handle. They literally are just trying to survive the day. And sometimes another person in the room, a visitor to a sick person, might be too much energy that the sick person can't even handle. Like, they know their limits right now. And we can respect that. It's like, listen, I know I can pray for you and do just as good from my distance and in prayer and in quiet, And what happened to me opened my eyes to all these realities that I never considered before. So yes, that is a fruit of this shocking event that happened a week ago. And I look at people who are suffering in a different light. And hopefully more respect and how it's very easy to have like a desire to help, but in a way you can kind of it can be hurtful as well as helpful. And I'm like, okay, I got to make sure I'm staying on the right side of this, that I'm actually a help to someone and not making their life harder because I want to help so much. So very, very interesting stuff.
Some other comments on the video. Neil said, hi, Greg and Jennifer. It's been a long time since I've listened to the show, but I saw the description of the audio version and I had to listen. I'm so glad Jennifer's okay, but I'm concerned about the fact you don't have a diagnosis for what happened. We'll be praying for your continuing recovery. I have a Rosary Army Rosary in the shoulder pouch I carry around with me. Good to hear from you. I recognize that name right away. Another person, I'm not sure who it is, CFL 553. Jennifer and Greg, that was a tearful episode. I choke up just thinking of the pain in Greg's voice. Well, I choke up thinking about the pain in my voice too. Thank you for sharing such a personal and frightening experience. Thanks be to God you are okay, Jennifer. Greg, your insight on having to detach and be ready to give to God what is his really struck a chord with me. Brandy, long time, old school Rosary Army Brandy. Thanks be to God for you being able to walk out of the hospital like you did, Jennifer. Thanks, Greg and Jennifer, for letting us witness this conversation and sharing your point of views of what happened. What a both strange and blessed day. That's a good book title right there. A Strange and Blessed Day.
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
K.R. Herbert, why don't you say this one?
Yeah, I'll take this one.
This is Kathy.
The exact same thing happened to my husband 2 months ago. What?
Yeah, we got a lot of this.
What?
A lot of these kinds of comments.
Here we go. We were at the Sunday breakfast table when he slumped over, eyes open, and was out cold. It all came back to me while I watched your video. Our son-in-law was just about to start CPR when he came to. Monitoring in the ambulance showed his heart rate was down to 30 beats per minute and then stopped for 4 to 5 seconds at a time. On Monday, he had a pacemaker installed.
Yeah, it's comments like that kind of stick the cardiologist thing. Are you going to get a heart rate monitor?
I'm on the fence. To be honest with you, I'm still on the fence.
What's holding you back? Is it the expense or is it the practicality of wearing one?
Good question. It's not so much the cost as much it is wearing the device. Like I'm not there yet. And maybe what I can do is just have it and only wear it to check, because some of these devices have like built-in EKGs in them, which is actually pretty amazing. And now this technology, granted, has been out probably for a couple years. I just didn't know it existed. So it's brand new to me. But some of these Apple Watches in particular, now there might be another competitor that can do the same thing. But at least on the Apple Watch side of things, you can take the EKG and it will create a PDF and of the heart rhythm sort of graph. And you can then just email that PDF to your doctor and they can see the readings and at least know this is a start. Let's look more deeply because it will show real rhythms.
But you need
just
to
like
see,
a 12 lead EKG can do.
It can't tell you if your heart did anything goofy when you weren't wearing it, though.
Well, I know. I understand that too. So that's kind of part of my thought process.
I don't ask you to do stuff very point blank very often.
Oh, no. Okay.
If this happened to me and I don't even think my watch is older, so I don't even think it does what you just described.
No, probably not.
Wouldn't you want me to do that?
Yes. And maybe that's another question we just need to just sort of address, like getting the elephant out of the room in a way. Not that it's an elephant. I think we all kind of know this. But we are living in an age where health trackers are now part of our normal reality. Like this is a thing now. This is an industry. Everyone is getting in on the game of making the latest health tracker because the marketing world realizes people want this. People want to know. People want to know what their heart rate is, their blood pressure. Like everybody's trying to be their own kind of a doctor.
Okay.
And so this health tracker app is being well received by the community, which is driving up the sales, driving up the products that are being made.
Okay.
And
trying to figure out where you're going with this.
Well, that maybe I just need to accept the fact that I need to be tracking it for me now. Like I kept thinking, well, that's good for everybody else. I feel great. What do I got to track?
Yeah,
I'm good.
You went to the hospital in an ambulance.
Right.
And I held you while I thought you were dead. So,
yeah. And I guess,
and I'm really glad you're, I'm as big of a fan of our chiropractor as you are. Okay. I love him. I want to know why your heart rate was in the 40s and 50s.
Yeah.
And I don't want that to happen again.
Yeah.
And if it's happening while you're sleeping or at another time, and we're just being blissfully ignorant, I'm sorry, I'm the one who's going to have to pay for that.
Well, yeah, I hear what you're saying.
So
I'm just being really honest with where
okay.
I am on all this.
So I know you don't want to wear a device. I get it. Can we get one and will you wear it for me for 2 weeks?
Absolutely, sure.
That's all. I would just feel so much better if we just checked this. It's been a week and a half now.
Okay.
I haven't been sitting on that necessarily, but I think it's as the days are passing. And then last night, quite honestly, when you were gone, my imagination just was kind of taken over, and I did not like it last night.
Okay.
And
fair enough.
All right. So
you hear it here. I am a dutiful wife.
Well, to that point, our buddy Domenico Bettinelli from SQPN, he said, Jennifer, I'm glad you're okay. And Greg, I am with you, man, on the scary thought of losing your wife. If nothing else, your suffering has given some of us a reason to memento mori. That's a fruit of this experience. So what do you think, Domenico? Should she be tracking this? Should she be wearing a device? I think
probably so.
Yeah?
Probably so.
Thanks, Domenico.
Okay, fine.
You know what'd be funny?
Fine.
You know what'd be really funny? I should ask Domenico just to record a video of him just going, yes. And he'll probably send it to me. Just insert Domenico nodding right now. SQPN.com. And then you read Amy's.
Okay. So thankful you are okay, Jennifer. How incredibly scary for both of you. As a nurse.
What? Go ahead. Keep reading Amy's expertly written YouTube comment.
Okay. As a nurse.
Yes.
I would suggest.
Yes.
Seeing a cardiologist.
What was that? Seeing what?
Seeing a cardiologist.
Okay.
As women's heart issues are very different than men's. Our heart rates can plummet in our sleep, as you know, but also big issues present differently and sometimes silently. So please take care of yourselves. Okay, now she's saying
that your heart issues can be silent but deadly?
Yes, apparently so. Okay. Now, I've heard Catherine say that, echoing Amy's initial concerns, that women's issues are often very different from men's. Catherine has repeatedly shared with us, just being her friend for so many years, she talks about a lot of these ER stories and just things, patterns that she has observed at the ER. And one of the patterns is women's issues are weird. Women have weird things that bring them in, and how often that just happens. And so we can't be sort of held to the same rubrics as the physiology of men. That some things can be universally experienced, but women have a particular set of issues that could be normal to us, and so therefore it might be worth another look. So I don't know why I have such a wall of resistance to getting the technology, because I feel like I'm betraying a part of myself. It's just weird, but I have such an adverse reaction to wearing the tech on my wrist, because I want to be as, I don't know, old school as possible. Paper and
maybe
not
there's some other
techie,
device that's not on your wrist.
And so I'm really open to that. Maybe somebody listening to this is like, oh my gosh, I have the perfect device for you. It's super easy. Maybe it's like a wearable, that's discreet and that doesn't have to go on my wrist. But what's exhausting me is actually doing the research. As soon as I start pulling up top 10 best blah, blah, blah for blah, 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 all the life gets sucked right out of me, and I don't want to do it. I just want to close the computer and go make something.
I will do some research on your behalf then. How's that?
Okay, that's fine. I will welcome that.
So I saw this one that's about 5 to 6 inches wide that you wrap around your outside of your clothes, and it's got like a locking mechanism on the side.
Perfect for me.
And on both your thighs, you wrap another one that has the digital readout, so that when you sit down, you can see them. And so it's like a full body heart monitor is what you'd wear. There's latex suits that you wear underneath your clothes that are just full on sensor modes. Thank you for all of you who left comments. We can't read them all, obviously. We got a lot of great emails. No, here's one more thing I want to talk about real quick. Frank sent us an email. Frank, thank you for your story about your son. We loved reading that. And he said something at the end of the email about your whole situation. He said that, we should perhaps have the anointing of the sick for you. And so after Mass, I went and spoke with our priest. And
I was not present.
You were not, and I filled him in on what happened to you. And I had been meaning to call him all week long and let him know. And he actually,
he was mad because we didn't call him.
He wasn't mad, but he made a great point. Going back to that conversation that we had about the order of calls, your priest. If you're in, here's my thinking. I thought you had died, but then the ambulance showed up and they said, no, everything's okay. She's going to be all right. And they loaded you up and they're taking you to the hospital. So I'm like, well, she's not dead. And she doesn't look to be in immediate, danger of death. So I didn't, I'm like, I'm not going to bother my priest. It's 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm not going to do that now. But he said, because when I asked him, should she have anointing of the sick? He said she should have had it at the hospital. And so he said, you should have called. And he wasn't saying it like I should have known. He was saying it because it
would have been good to do.
This is a sacrament. Anointing of the sick is a sacrament. And, we talk about this all the time of availing ourselves of the sacraments, which are ways that God gives us grace. And so it would have been a very smart thing for me to have called the emergency number, said we're on the way to the hospital. She's going to be okay, but here. But what was interesting and what Father said, and one other comment that I kind of like, this guy, he sounds like I don't know where he's going with this, but he said, sounds to me like it's, a demonic attack or something like that. I was like, let's not just jump to demonic attack. I was really surprised. Our priest said, has anything weird happened with Rosary Army at home lately? Have you had any more attacks of any other sort? And he says, it actually kind of sounds like what she needs is deliverance prayers. we're getting ready to, we just came off of sabbatical and we're trying to breathe new life into this effort in a different way of doing the podcast and trying to be more casual and transparent and that kind of thing. And we have the giving campaign coming up. Once a year, we try to raise everything that Rosary Army needs and also for us to be able to survive.
Well,
and all these things, it's like, so this is when the devil would try to knock us down early on. And you don't seem to worry as much about, oppressive things, but that doesn't mean that you're not a target, right?
Right. Oh, and I read that comment too on YouTube. And of course you shared with me, and it surprised me that our priest kind of leapt to that so quickly.
Very quickly. And
so it made me reflect on, well, is there evidence to support his suggestion? And that's like, you know what? If I'm promoting the Rosary, that's what makes me a target. Yeah. I don't have to do something unusual. I just have to keep fighting the good fight, and if you're trying to do holy work, or if you're trying to be holy or virtuous, you're basically making a target out of yourself. And that's actually what you want in a way, because it means if the enemy is worried about you, you're doing something right. Yeah. If you're living a life full of just whatever feels good, well, the devil is not worried about you. He's like, I already got you. I got no problems. Keep on keeping on. But if you're going against his grain and
as long as nobody asks what's in hell, we ain't got no problems.
Right. And so recently in the month of October, I believe, I for the first time in a long time, maybe a year, participated in one of those monthly deliverance sessions with the St. Michael the Archangel Institute or something like that with Father, not Michael Rossetti, Monsignor Rossetti. Yeah. And I haven't done that in a long time, but I felt like, you know what, this is a good time to do it. So I went into that, and so that maybe made the enemy not so happy with me because I was the one really doing it out of our family. I just went into my office and just had holy water. I had my crucifix ready. I was ready for this meeting. And I did it. It's like, haha. And then all of a sudden, boom, I get shut down. But, it's like, I'm fine.
Well, I have thought for a while that I would benefit from a priest praying additional deliverance prayers. Just because, I did some of this in the past when we were in Denver with a priest. And I feel like that opened up a realization of things that were happening and had happened in my life that I never, and then I feel like that began the last 10 years journey of a lot of the mental health issues and those kinds of things that I've had to address and struggle with. But I feel like there might be some things that weren't fully resolved then because they hadn't yet come to the surface. And new things have come to the surface in the last 10 years that would probably benefit from a certain level of deliverance prayers. And so I actually said to Father, and he knows of my PTSD diagnosis and other things. And I said, between the two of us, we both would benefit from deliverance prayers. And so we're going to have him back over for dinner and try to make that happen. And hopefully soon. I know his busy time is coming up with Advent. But that's a consideration, right, for all of us. It's like we need to avail, if you end up in the hospital, avail yourself of that sacrament of the sick. Avail yourself of the prayers of the church in terms of the devil doesn't want us to be doing good works. If you're involved in parish ministries or if you have your own apostolate or whatever you might be doing, take advantage of those things. One thing, the USCCB published this, the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops posted this or published this a few years ago. It's called Prayers Against the Powers of Darkness. The first printing was in 2017, so it's been a while. Helpful little book, particularly when you're feeling oppressed. It's like just to be able to read through these books. And it's supplications which may be used by the faithful privately in their struggle against the powers of darkness. And I definitely think that this was that some of that played a role, even if you don't feel directly attacked. I'm regularly dealing with spiritual warfare myself.
I just had this,
and you were definitely, used against me in a way. Not to make it about me, but that definitely. I have had to really fight against fear, and fear is one of the devil's weapons.
Well, one thing I said, and I just forgot I said this in the Memento Mori podcast.
Okay.
I said, well, hold on a second. If I were to die, would that be the end of Rosary Army? I literally said it out loud. And you said, well, maybe. I mean, like
I said the podcast.
You know, and so I put that out there.
Interesting. So it's your fault.
Why are you making it about me, Craig?
Thank you for your comments. Thank you.
Please pray for us. Pray for us.
Thank you for all the emails that you've sent. We greatly appreciate it. If you want to contact us, feedback@rosaryarmy.com. We will share some comments in the future again. Hopefully, God willing, the next couple of episodes, which we've already recorded, we keep recording new things, so they've gotten pushed. We have some great conversations. So a couple episodes coming up happened before all this hospital stuff. So if we go silent, we felt like we can't go right into those because so many of you wanted to know what happened.
Eventually it all makes sense. You won't even don't worry about the timeline.
But we're also very close. We're not there yet, but we're a couple of weeks from launching our annual giving campaign. So if you'd be praying for us leading up to that, for protection from spiritual attacks, just for an outpouring of generosity. You know, it's been a rough year for many people financially this past year and recent years. And so we're trying to deepen our trust in God that He's going to continue to provide for us and for this ministry, for us to be able to keep doing the things that we're doing. But this is the time of the year where I have to fight against, you know, a lot of the negative feelings and the fears. Like, you know, after December, am I going to need to go out and get another job so that I can provide for the family? Or will God continue to provide for the apostolate so that we can keep focusing our efforts on this? I think we're going to be able to continue going. I will say this is the calmest I've been leading into a giving campaign before.
I feel great. Normally, I have a panic attack between October and November about finances.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. I feel like everything's going to...
It is what it is.
Yeah. You know? It's like, you know what?
Yeah.
It's... When are we going to learn our lesson to just trust?
Well, and
just trust.
I feel like we're trusting. I feel like there's still. It's also probably the heaviest amount of work. I think about it pretty much from the time my eyes open until they shut. I think about the giving campaign, so I'm not really looking forward to that level of work. It would be nice to have an Advent and Christmas where I'm not thinking about, you know, the money as much as we have to. But it's like I do very much love the fact that we don't ask for support throughout the year.
Yeah, that's nice.
And that we just we bear down for 1 month out of the year, and then the other 12 we're not doing petitions for it. So if you want to give, hold on. Just wait until the giving campaign launches. We're going to launch it at the beginning of Advent, actually a few days before, just because it's a very short Advent this year. So like probably the Monday after Thanksgiving is what I'm thinking we'll launch it. Or Giving Tuesday is the Tuesday after Thanksgiving, I think. So sometime around there. I haven't nailed it down yet. But we'll be launching it soon, and would love to have, you know, if you've been thinking about giving to Rosary Army, just hold on a couple weeks, and then your donation will go towards that giving campaign tally, and we can make sure that we thank you properly and that kind of thing too. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what God does this year with it, and so I'm excited. I feel like there are a few other things. Leave your comments if you're watching this on YouTube. Subscribe, like, all those kinds of things. Thank you. Cheryl left a review over at Apple Podcasts, which again the name has changed officially. It's Rosary Army Catholic Podcast now. One last thing, because we talked about it on our walk as to, and again, I hate to put you on the spot and ask you, but it was about promoting our good friends. Our good friend, our developer. Oh, Marco.
Yeah. I think you can access it pretty easily on your device. Yeah. And then we can, because we have a video and podcast version of this show, okay. For those who are watching, we can show you.
I'm going to be putting this up right here on the screen.
Okay, cool.
Here's what so real quick, what Jennifer was just trying, she was talking secondhand. If you have purchased the Rosary Army mobile app, and it's had amazing reviews since we launched it in 2018, I think. Mm-hmm. People still buy it. It's $3.99. We made it super affordable. It was done for us by someone who we used to go to the same parish together, and we've stayed in contact. Very faithful guy named Marco. Marco is a app developer, and he did the Rosary Army app for free. He will not let us pay him for any of the work. He's continued to update it for us regularly. Apple requires updates and checks and all this kind of stuff. every single year, at least once, if not 2 times a year. And he's done all the updates for both Apple as well as on the Google Play Store, whatever it's called. He has an app, and we've talked about his apps in the past. And if you just want to show Marco some love, he says he's releasing, it's called Timestamp Private Journal App. Timestamp Private Journal App. And he's hoping to get some 5-star reviews in order to get found in the searches. We'll put a link to this over on YouTube, but also in the show notes on Rosary Army's webpage. Timestamp Private Journal App. I'll put an image up on the screen. It's a free app. It does have an optional subscription. And he says, if you would like the free subscription that enables attaching photos, and he's saying that to me, let me know, and I will give you as many as you need. We're telling you this because Marco has been such a huge blessing to Rosary Army. And if you want to give him some love, go over and check out the app. If you like to journal, if you'd like to have a secure way of being able to do that online, Timestamp Private Journal App. Go look at it. Leave Marco some reviews and give him some love, just as a thank you for the work that he's done for Rosary Army. If you like the Rosary Army mobile app, if it's been a blessing to you, I'm telling you, we recorded the audios, created the artwork, but Marco made the package that makes it possible for it to be on your phone. So thank you for bringing that up. All right, that's it.
Excellent.
Leave your comments, blah, 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 blah. Make them.
Pray them.
And give them away. Talk to you soon. God bless.